Hi guys, it's Phoebe. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going over the books that I read in April, and there is a ton. I read so much this month. I'm not going to put them in any particular order. I'm just going to be doing what I have done like the last few months and just go, it'll end up being reverse order because I'm going backwards down my stack. First up, we have The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. I'm really late to the game reading this one, but I enjoyed it for the most part. I think that there were some parts that could have been cut out that didn't really give anything to the story. For anyone who doesn't know, like I didn't really know, this book is about a man who is hired to by this like wealthy older man to try to solve the murder or disappearance of one of his family members, and he ends up getting assistance from a young woman who is a hacker, essentially, to try to find this woman and try to find out what happened to her. So again, overall I liked it. There were some parts that I think the book could have done without, but for the most part it was good. Then I was continuing the Raven Cycle, the series by Maggie Stiefvater. I feel like this angle is going to be really atrocious. I've moved my shelves again in case you couldn't tell, so we will just see how this turns out. Anyway, but this is the third book, Blue Lily, Lily Blue. I, again, really enjoyed this book. This is following a group of their high school boys, and then one of their friends, they go to like a boarding school, and then one of their friends, Blue, is kind of a local girl in the town where the boarding school is. And they are trying to uncover the mysteries of ley lines in the area and find a Welsh king who is like rumored to be buried on a ley line somewhere. I do really enjoy this series. I am kind of excited that I have almost finished it. They're pretty short books. They're really geared towards more of like a middle school or high school aged reader, but I still find them pretty enjoyable. This part I'm going slightly out of order. So first up here I have The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This is the first book in the duology. The second book is Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I really enjoyed both of these books. I feel like they're the kind of books that usually like other people would rave about, and then I would read it and be like, I don't get it. And I do think that like on like some level I'm like, nah, these are probably kind of dumb and problematic to some extent, but they were so enjoyable for me to read that I didn't really get bogged down in like, that's kind of silly. So these books are about a human girl who is being raised by a vampire king. And there's kind of like some political intrigue because since vampires are pretty much immortal, there's always like a big power struggle for who is going to be the king or queen or whatever, because you have to like kill someone to get that position. And once you have it, someone is always trying to kill you for that position. So she, like I said, she's a human girl, young woman when the book starts, who's been raised by the vampire king. And the first book kind of kicks off. She joins a competition, I guess is how I would describe it. It's like a competition. There's only like one survivor at the end. And the goddess of vampires like grants you your wish at the end of it. And she is taking part in this competition because it's kind of her only way to really rise up through the vampire ranks, since she's a human surrounded by vampires who are immortal and much more powerful than she is. It does turn out to be a romance. I don't think I'm spoiling anything when I say that she ends up falling in love with one of her other competitors. Obviously, there's a second book, so like other things happen. But I can't really get into what happens in the second book without spoiling the first book. So anyway, I liked it. It has like a strong female character. It's just like really, I don't know. I felt like it was action packed. And I enjoyed the romance, which I feel like I don't say often. Yeah, I don't know really what else to say about it. I liked them. I also read Hood Feminism by Mikki Kendall. I did have a critique of this book, and now I can't remember what it was. I think my critique was that it was a little disorganized. I would have to look at my Goodreads review. Overall, I thought it was really good and made some really good points. It definitely did not go as in depth into like intersectional feminism as I thought it would, like when I was reading the introduction and everything. I mean, it is a pretty short book. And like I said, a little disorganized, repetitive at points. So overall, like, not bad. I feel like a decent introduction to the subject matter. I just think it could have done more than it did. But that's that. Next, I have The Shipping News by E. Annie Proulx? This is a book about a man who is married with kids, and his wife, she dies, right? Or does she disappear? She dies. And he moves with his aunt to Newfoundland, Canada, and like starts a new life there with his aunt and his 2 daughters. I literally only read this book because my mom like gave it to me to read. And so I would have felt bad if I didn't read it, because then like what if she asks me about it and I have to be like, dude, that didn't sound like something I would like to read. It was really well written, but I just didn't care. I just didn't care about the characters. It was kind of boring. Like, there's no, I don't know. There's no arc, whatever. This wasn't it for me. I think it's a perfectly fine book. It's just completely not at all the kind of book that I would pick up and be interested in reading. All right, next up I have Renegades by Marissa Meyer. This book, I've never read anything by Marissa Meyer before. And after reading this, I don't know if I ever will again. This was a really big disappointment to me. I was really excited about it because, you know, superheroes. I don't know. It sounded interesting. It's basically like, I was expecting it to be more like X-Men or something, because like the synopsis or whatever talks about these people who are called prodigies because they have like these special abilities. So they become superheroes, and there's like the good guys and the bad guys. I don't know. Looking back on it, maybe I should have realized that this sounded like it was going to be really juvenile, because it was. It was very like I think if you're in middle school and you kind of like superhero, sci-fi kind of stuff, this would be good. But for me, at my age, it just kind of read like a cheesy comic book, minus like the fun of having illustrations. And like, it's so long. Like, it's a pretty thick book. I don't know. It was just disappointing. It's about our main character who has, I mean, it's also kind of, let me start over. So there's this group called the Renegades, and they're the good guys who are supposed to like protect the city. Our main character, Nova, has some beef with the Renegades that I won't get into why. But she ends up like joining their forces to try to like be a double agent and end up like taking them down from the inside, sort of. and then realizes that they're people too. To me, the whole thing, like, it's just kind of a simplistic storyline of the people that you think are good, like, aren't always good, you know, like, power can corrupt. It's very basic. And so I did not enjoy this book. Getting close to the end, I have got Fairy Tale by Stephen King. This book I really enjoyed. It is about a young boy who, through like a weird like series of events, ends up helping out his aging neighbor by doing stuff like, you know, helping to take care of his dog, helping out like around the house. And he ends up finding out that in the man's, like, this mysterious shed in the man's backyard, there is a passageway that leads to another magical world. And adventures ensue. It's definitely not your typical Stephen King read, or like, I guess, what you think of when you think of Stephen King. I know he has like other fantasy works and stuff like that, but I feel like people always like jump to horror when you talk about Stephen King, and this is not that at all. It did take it a while to get going. I was really concerned about when the action would pick up, but when it did, I literally like could not put it down. So I enjoyed this a lot. I would recommend this. Next, we have 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. This is told from the perspective of the Trojan women, kind of during and following the Trojan War. I read another book that was like this, The Silence of the Girls. And to me, this was equally kind of a letdown, because it was like, it could be such an interesting story, but it just fell short. This book's format kind of jumps from like perspective to perspective of like multiple different women. And you don't stay with a woman for any like length of time. You get like a chapter from her perspective. So it kind of ended up reading, it was more like a short story collection than an actual novel about whatever, which I guess is fine, but it's not what I was expecting. And I didn't really like it because I wanted a more in-depth view of like the women's perspective, instead of just like a quick little glimpse about how the war impacted like one person and then like on to the next. So unfortunately, I didn't really love this. It was fine, but it wasn't what I wanted, I guess. Okay, last up we have Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This is really good. I love V.E. Schwab. It is kind of juvenile, but the way her writing is, even though you can kind of tell that it's targeted for younger readers, the writing is still good enough and the stories are still interesting enough that it like keeps my attention. It's about a young girl who has lived at an orphanage her whole life, and she ends up being reconnected with her family and sent off to live with them in this kind of mysterious old house in the English countryside. And spookiness ends up happening. So I really liked this book. Like I said, I enjoy V.E. Schwab. I think her writing is really good. I mean, probably not like show-stopping, life-changing, but like a good fun read. That is all the books that I read in April. I feel like I might have read one or two maybe on my phone or something that I didn't include, but that's fine. I won't worry about it. Those are the books that I read. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.